Have you ever stopped to realize that every single day hands you a treasure most people completely overlook? What if I told you that the seconds ticking by right now are shaping your entire future? Yet most of us let them slip away unnoticed. Imagine waking up tomorrow fully in control of your time, finally living with intention, instead of drifting through endless distractions. Every day, you receive an incredible gift, one that many never truly appreciate. 86,400 seconds. These seconds are invisible to the eye and silent to the ear, yet they quietly carve the path of your life, more powerfully than almost anything else. They arrive softly each morning, like a gentle promise, and vanish just as quietly each night, slipping away forever. What you decide to do with these precious moments doesn't just shape your day, it defines who you are and who you are becoming. But here's the hard truth. So many of us are sleepwalking through time, not out of laziness or lack of care, but simply because we never pause to grasp how much of our lives are quietly drained by invisible, seemingly harmless distractions that have become normal. Pause for a moment. How much of your day is truly lived with clear intention? How many hours do you spend chasing someone else's version of success, reacting to constant noise, mindlessly scrolling through endless feeds, overthinking every little thing, procrastinating, while your deepest, most important dreams stay waiting on the sidelines, frozen in time? But what happens if that perfect moment never arrives? What if the greatest tragedy isn't failure, but never even starting, never fully showing up for your own life? Time is more than just a resource. It's the foundation of everything your future holds. Unlike money, once time is spent, it's gone forever. Yet day after day, we trade it away for things that bring no real return. We delay decisions, fall into distractions, and convince ourselves there's always more time ahead, until suddenly, there isn't. Along the way, we forget the urgency of now. We forget that the ticking clock isn't there to pressure us, but to remind us that life is limited, and that makes every moment incredibly valuable. But here's the truth you need to hear: it's never too late. You don't need the perfect plan or ideal circumstances. What you need is clarity, courage, and a readiness to start exactly where you are, with whatever you have right now. Because success doesn't wait for the world's permission. It begins the moment you decide to stop wasting time and reclaim your power. In this episode, we'll walk together through the hidden patterns, the distractions, and the habits that silently steal your potential every day. We'll discover how to break free from mental traps, align your actions with true purpose, and build a system that transforms your time into unstoppable progress. Drawing on philosophy, psychology, and real-life experience, this is more than just advice. It's a wake-up call to take full responsibility for the life you're creating. So before we dive in, ask yourself honestly, if you truly valued your time as if your life depended on it, what would you start doing differently today? What are the time wasters that hold you back, even when you don't realize it? You might think you're busy. You might glance at your packed calendar, overflowing with back-to-back commitments and endless to-do lists, and say, I don't have time to waste. But what if the biggest time waste isn't in your schedule? It's in how you show up to your own life. Building on the idea that time can quietly slip away without us realizing, The real danger isn't in the time you consciously spend, but in those small moments that quietly escape your grasp unnoticed. The truth is, the most dangerous time wasters aren't obvious. They don't announce themselves, they don't feel like wasted time in the moment. They come disguised in many forms: productivity, rest, research, preparation, even just a few minutes here and there. But when added up, those minutes steal days, months, even years from your life. Let's begin with one of the biggest offenders: passive consumption. Scrolling through your phone, jumping from app to app, letting hours slip away in short videos, endless headlines, or content loops that lead nowhere. It doesn't feel destructive. It feels like you're just checking in, catching up, or relaxing. Yet behind that screen, an algorithm works overtime, not only to entertain you, but to capture your attention, extend the time you spend, and disrupt your flow. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Multiply that by every day this year, and ask yourself honestly, what could you have built with that time? Then there's overthinking, a quieter thief but just as dangerous. It hides behind careful planning, responsible caution, or intellectual reflection. But in reality, it's often fear wearing a clever mask. How many times have you sat on a good idea, talked yourself out of moving forward, waiting for more information, more certainty, more validation? You weren't doing nothing. You were stuck in motionless thought. While your mind spun in circles, time kept moving forward. Opportunities passed by, and you missed your chance to engage with the world through action. We also lose time to emotional reactivity, carrying arguments in our heads long after they ended, replaying perceived slights, nursing resentment, or getting caught up in other people's chaos. These mental loops drain your energy and focus, pulling you away from the work that truly matters. You might think you're being thoughtful or standing your ground, but in truth, you're trapped in a feedback loop of distraction, mentally living in moments that no longer exist, giving away your present to things that don't deserve it, even things that seem responsible, like saying yes to everything, attending every meeting, responding instantly to every message, can quietly drain your time. When you live in a constant state of reaction, you surrender your ability to create. You become a task manager, not a dream builder. The time you spend reacting to others' priorities often comes at the expense of your own. Without realizing it, your days fill with motion but lack progress. What makes these time wasters so dangerous is that they aren't dramatic. They aren't catastrophic failures or major breakdowns. They are small, quiet, normal, and that's why they slip under the radar. Yet over time, they accumulate and shape your reality. So how do you break free? The first step is honest awareness. You can't change what you won't name. Start by tracking your time, not just where it goes, but how it feels. Which hours leave you feeling empty, scattered, or drained? Which activities feel productive but actually keep you stuck? Pay attention not only to how you spend your time, but also to how that time shapes your energy, focus, and momentum. Building on the mental loops we discussed earlier, it's essential to understand how the world's most successful people manage their time. They aren't perfect time managers. They are ruthless time protectors. They know exactly where their hours go. They make decisions based on what truly matters. And perhaps most importantly, they have learned to say no, not just to distractions, but to anything that doesn't align with their mission. Take a moment to reflect deeply today. Where is your time going? What patterns, habits, or behaviors have quietly become your norm but are silently stealing your future? You don't need more hours in the day. You need to reclaim the ones you already have. Break free from these mental loops and take back your time. There's a type of time loss that's harder to notice because it doesn't show up on your calendar, and no one else can measure it but you. It happens inside your mind as repetitive thoughts, unfinished internal conversations, imagined arguments, and endless what-if scenarios playing on a loop. These mental loops are deceptive. They make you feel busy. They mimic analysis, reflection, even responsibility. But what they often generate is noise. Constant subtle noise that eats away at your clarity, your energy, and most importantly, your time. You've likely experienced this. You sit down to work on something important, something meaningful. But before you can even begin, your brain replays a past mistake, revisits a recent conflict, or spirals into an uncertain future. You're not acting, you're not solving, you're spinning. These loops disguise themselves as thinking, but what they really are is delay. Delay wrapped in emotion and fear. And while your mind circles the same thoughts again and again, the present moment quietly slips away. Mental loops aren't always triggered by big traumas or dramatic moments. Sometimes they are set off by the smallest things: a look someone gave you, a vague email, an awkward silence in a conversation. Your brain tries to make sense of the discomfort by replaying the moment repeatedly, trying to decode it. But instead of gaining clarity, you get stuck. Your emotional and mental bandwidth is drained by questions with no real answers, by problems not being solved, just relived. Neuroscience tells us the brain is drawn to unresolved patterns. It seeks closure. When something feels unfinished, whether it's a decision you haven't made, a conversation you're avoiding, or a goal you keep postponing, your brain flags it as incomplete. And unless you take deliberate action to bring closure or clarity, that thought keeps resurfacing, stealing your focus and scattering your attention. This is known as the Zeigarnik effect. It explains why unclosed mental loops linger far longer than they should. But here's the deeper cost. While your mind is trapped in these loops, you're not present. You're not creating. You're not progressing. You're living inside your head, not in your life. And when enough of your days are consumed by thinking instead of doing, your goals remain untouched. Your potential stays dormant. You start mistaking mental exhaustion for hard work and busyness, for progress. Breaking free begins with awareness and interruption. The moment you catch yourself spinning in a familiar thought, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this thought leading me toward a decision? Or is it just looping for comfort or control? Am I thinking to solve or thinking to delay? Interrupting the loop breaks the trance. It gives you space to step out of the thought and choose a different direction. Then, redirect your energy toward action. Often the quickest way to end a mental loop is to do the thing you've been avoiding. Make the call, write the message, take the first step toward your goal. And if action isn't possible yet, write the thought down. Externalize it. Building on the previous steps of taking action, make that call. Write that message. Take the very first step toward your goal. And if taking action isn't possible, Just yet, write down the thoughts in your head. Externalize them. Give them form so they don't keep living rent-free in your mind. Even small actions can close big mental loops. Along with this, you need to simplify your inner world. This means letting go of the need to control every outcome, resolve every conflict, or predict every scenario. Mental loops often arise from the illusion that if you just think a little longer, you'll gain perfect clarity or control. But clarity usually comes not from more thinking, but from moving forward, learning as you go and accepting that some questions will never have perfect answers. Reflect honestly today. What thoughts are stealing your time without giving anything back? What loops are you caught in that feel productive but actually paralyze you? And most importantly, what could you reclaim creatively, emotionally, or spiritually? If you finally broke free, you don't need to figure everything out right now. You just need to start choosing presence over overthinking, movement over mental paralysis, living outside your head instead of getting lost inside it. That's where your time begins to return to you. Not in big dramatic moments, but in the quiet decision to let go of the loop and take one small, decisive step forward. Live on purpose. Align your actions with your vision. There's a subtle exhaustion that doesn't come from working hard, but from working without direction. You can spend hours being productive, ticking boxes, responding to messages, showing up on time, and still go to bed feeling hollow, as if your effort is fueling someone else's machine, not your own. That's the weight of misalignment. That's what it feels like when your actions don't match your purpose. You're moving, yes, but not toward anything that truly matters to you. Living on purpose doesn't mean every second of your day is filled with some grand, noble cause. It doesn't require you to have all the answers or a perfectly mapped out life plan. What it does require is clarity. Clarity about what matters most. Clarity about what you're building, why you're building it, and the kind of person you want to become in the process. Without that, you drift. You say yes to things that dilute your energy. You chase goals that aren't really yours. You burn time on tasks that pull you further from, not closer to, the life you truly want. Philosophers have spoken about this for centuries. Seneca warned that if a man does not know to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. You could have, all the time, energy and resources in the world. But if you're not steering your life in alignment with your vision, you're just being blown around by circumstances, pulled by trends, reacting instead of choosing. Science backs this up too. Psychological studies show that people who live with a clear sense of purpose are more motivated, more resilient under stress, and more consistent in their actions. Purpose isn't just motivational, it's directional. It filters your decisions. It helps you know what to say no to. It strengthens your ability to stay focused when life gets loud. And perhaps most importantly, it makes even difficult days feel meaningful because you know what they're building toward. But here's the trap. Most people confuse goals with purpose. Goals are outcomes. They change. You hit one, you set another. But purpose is deeper. Building on the previous discussion about purpose and clarity in action, let's take a deeper look at the why behind everything you do. It's the thread that connects all the little things in your life. The emails you send, the workouts you show up for, the books you read, the habits you build. Purpose gives weight to those actions. It turns routine into intention. It transforms effort into clear direction. To live on purpose, start by reconnecting with your inner compass. Ask yourself, what matters most to me? What kind of impact do I want to leave behind? What would still hold meaning for me even if no one noticed or applauded? These questions aren't about performance. They're about alignment within your soul. When you begin to live by those answers, your time stops scattering in 100 directions. It begins to consolidate, focus, and sharpen. You start moving with intention, not faster but deeper. Living on purpose also means making peace with the discomfort that comes from walking your own path. Because when you stop living by default, people will notice. Some will question your choices. Some will misunderstand. And that's okay. Your vision isn't for everyone. It's for you. And your task isn't to please the crowd, but to honor the truth inside you. So today, reflect honestly. Are your actions truly aligned with your deepest vision, or are they merely habits born from convenience and routine? Are you spending your time building something meaningful to you, or climbing a ladder that leads to someone else's dream? You don't need to have every step figured out right now. What you need is to start choosing with more intention. Saying yes to what aligns, saying no to distractions, and always remembering that success isn't just about results. It's about living each day in a way that reflects the life you genuinely want to build. That's what it means to live on purpose, and that's where real momentum begins. Master the clock. Prioritize what truly matters. Time doesn't ask for permission, doesn't slow down when you're overwhelmed, and it doesn't wait while you figure things out. It moves quietly, relentlessly, and whether you're ready or not, it keeps going. But here's a truth most people avoid. You can't control time itself, but you can control how you use it. The secret isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most. Mastering the clock isn't about squeezing every second with frantic energy. It's about being ruthless with your priorities and intentional with your focus. Many people mistake busy for effectiveness. They fill their days with constant motion, endless tasks, messages, and errands, believing that movement equals progress. But being busy is not the same as being productive. In fact, it's often the opposite. You can run all day and still end up right where you started simply because you were focused on the wrong things. Real productivity doesn't come from doing more. It comes from choosing better. Psychologists call this the priority paradox. The more we have on our plates, the more likely we are to default to easy tasks, the quick wins that feel productive but don't move the needle. We procrastinate on meaningful work because it feels heavier, riskier, and more demanding. So we convince ourselves that clearing our inbox or organizing files is urgent, while real priorities wait quietly in the background. The solution is brutal clarity. Ask yourself hard questions like, what are the top 3 things that will actually move me closer to my vision? What's draining my time that doesn't deserve it? What am I avoiding that I know I need to face? These aren't comfortable questions, but they are necessary if you want to stop being a prisoner of your schedule and start becoming the architect of your day. Building on the clarity and focus we've discussed, one of the most powerful tools for mastering your time is the practice of time blocking. This means designating specific chunks of your day for your highest priorities and defending that time as if your future depends on it. because it truly does. When you begin treating your most important work with the same urgency and protection, as a critical appointment or meeting, everything begins to shift. You start living proactively instead of reactively. You stop letting your day just happen to you and start designing it with clear intention. There's also immense power in saying no, not just to distractions, but to good things that aren't the right things. Every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. If you don't choose intentionally, life will choose for you. Other people's priorities will fill your time. Notifications, obligations, social pressures, all competing for your attention. And if you're not clear on what truly matters, you'll find yourself busy but empty. Consider someone like Warren Buffett, who once said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." Buffett understands deeply that success isn't built on doing more. It's built on doing less, but better. On narrowing your focus so tightly that your energy is no longer scattered, but concentrated, deliberate, and unstoppable. Reflect on your own life right now. Are you prioritizing what matters most, or simply reacting to what feels urgent? Are your days shaped by your vision, or hijacked by noise and habit? Are you clear on your deepest priorities, or are you letting your energy be drained by things that don't move you forward? You don't need more hours. You need sharper focus. You need the courage to say no. You need the discipline to protect what matters. Because the truth is, the clock doesn't care how you spend your time, but your future will. And if you want that future to reflect your values, goals, and deepest potential, you must take full responsibility for the minutes that shape it. Master the clock, and you take back your power, not just over your schedule, but over your entire life. Transform your habits. Transform your life. Every action you take is a vote for the person you're becoming. Not just once, not in grand moments of transformation, but daily. In quiet routines, unconscious behaviors, and small decisions that seem insignificant at the time. Habits are the architecture of your life. They build your identity, define your rhythm, and silently dictate where your time, energy, and potential go. If you feel stuck, scattered, or off track, it's likely not due to lack of ambition. It's because your habits are out of sync with your vision. We often wait for motivation before we act. But habit science tells a different story. Motivation is inconsistent. Habits are reliable. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, emphasizes that real change doesn't come from setting massive goals, but from refining the systems that shape your behavior. Because in the end, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And those systems live in your habits. But here's what most people miss. Bad habits aren't always loud or dramatic. They're subtle, like checking your phone first thing in the morning, skipping your morning routine just once, choosing comfort over progress at the end of a long day. Building on the topic of habit transformation, let's examine the small daily decisions we make. Each decision may feel insignificant, but over time, they hardwire your brain for distraction, hesitation, and inertia. Neuroscience shows that every repeated behavior strengthens specific neural pathways. What you practice, you become. The brain doesn't care if a habit serves you or not. It simply rewards what you repeat. Transforming your habits starts with self-awareness, not judgment. Begin by identifying the subtle patterns that quietly undermine your progress. Where are you leaking? Time? What behaviors seem harmless but slowly disconnect you from your purpose? Be honest but gentle with yourself. Change doesn't come from shame. It comes from clarity and commitment. Start small. One habit, one shift. Anchor it to something you already do. Make it so easy that it feels almost too small to matter. Why? Because consistency is more powerful than intensity. A 5-minute journaling habit done daily will reshape your mindset more than a once-a-month deep reflection. 10 push-ups a day won't change your body overnight, but it will change your identity. Because you start seeing yourself as someone who shows up. And that shift is everything. Stack your habits. Make good behaviors easier by attaching them to existing routines. If you already make coffee every morning, use that time to review your priorities for the day. If you drive to work, turn off distractions. And use the ride to listen to something that fuels your mind. Habit formation isn't just about discipline, it's about design. Design your environment to support the person you want to become. Lay out your clothes the night before. Keep your phone out of the bedroom. Remove friction between you and your higher self. And most importantly, link your habits to your identity, not just outcomes. Don't just say, I want to write a book. Say, I'm a writer and writers write. Don't just say, I want to get fit. Say, I'm the kind of person who takes care of their body. When you shift your habits to reflect your identity, every action becomes part of a deeper narrative. You're not just checking a box, you're becoming someone. Reflect honestly today. What habits are shaping your life right now? Are they aligned with who you want to be, or are they quietly keeping you stuck? What's one small shift you could make starting today that would serve as a vote for your future self? Because in the end, your life isn't built by what you intend to do. It's built by what you consistently do. Transform. Your habits and everything else will follow. Manage your time portfolio. Make every hour count. If you treated your time like money, if every hour were $1 and every day a bank account, how would you spend it differently? Would you still hand it over so easily to distractions, interruptions, or energy-draining tasks? Or would you become more intentional, more protective, more strategic about where each moment goes? The truth is, your time is your most valuable asset. Unlike money, you can't earn more, borrow it, or recover what's already gone. That makes it infinitely more precious. Yet we rarely treat it that way. Imagine tracking your hours the way an investor tracks their finances, not obsessively, but with clarity. You'd know where your time is going, what's giving you the best return, and what's quietly depleting your energy in progress. Building on the idea of managing your time like a portfolio, this mindset completely changes how you approach each day. It compels you to ask yourself, is this hour a cost or an investment? Is this task building something meaningful or simply filling space? In the world of finance, savvy investors diversify intelligently, avoid emotional decisions, and focus on long-term growth. The same principles apply to your time. If you spend your entire day on reactive tasks, answering emails, handling interruptions, doing shallow work, you're essentially investing all your time in low-return assets. Yes, you're busy, but you're not truly building anything. High return time, by contrast, is spent on activities aligned with your deepest goals. Learning, creating, strategizing, exercising, connecting, reflecting. These are the hours that multiply in value over time, not because they're urgent, but because they're foundational. Most people don't lose their time in big chunks. Instead, they lose it slowly and subtly, in 5-minute scrolls, repeated distractions, and tasks that feel productive but lack real direction. These are time debts, hours spent with no return, draining your future for the illusion of short-term relief. But the good news is, once you see this clearly, you can begin investing your time more powerfully. Start with a time audit for just a few days. Track how you spend each hour and categorize it. Was this high return time, low return time, or wasted time? Was it an investment in your health, growth, relationships, or purpose? Or was it reactive, mindless, or misaligned with what you truly value? You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be honest, because clarity precedes change. Then begin to rebalance your portfolio. Start protecting time blocks for your highest return activities before the day fills up. Make space for deep work, not just urgent tasks. Schedule. Time to reflect. Create without expecting immediate results. Learn something new. Strengthen meaningful connections. These are the hours that build the life you truly want, not the life that merely looks busy from the outside. You'll also need to prune. Cut out the things that waste your time or dilute your focus. That might mean saying no to obligations that no longer serve you. It might mean limiting how often you check messages or letting go of habits that bring comfort, but no value. Just like a smart investor sells off poor-performing assets, you must let go of patterns that aren't helping you grow. And perhaps most importantly, don't forget to rest with intention. Rest isn't wasted time when it's deliberate. In fact, recovery is one of the most powerful time investments you can make. But passive, distracted rest, numbing yourself with noise, won't recharge you. It will only leave you drained and behind. Real rest restores energy, renews clarity, and prepares you to invest even better tomorrow. So ask yourself today, where is my time going? Am I spending it like someone building something meaningful, or like someone waiting for life to happen? What would change if I treated every hour as if it mattered? Because it does. Your time is your greatest currency. And when you start investing, with clarity, discipline, and purpose, the compound returns will show, not just in your productivity, but in your health, confidence, relationships, and the legacy you're building every single day. Start now. Build momentum through small wins. Building on the power of small wins and momentum. There's a powerful illusion that keeps so many people stuck. On the surface, it sounds logical and reasonable, but underneath, it quietly corrodes progress. It's the belief that you have to start only when you're fully ready. We wait for clarity, motivation, the perfect mood, the ideal timing, or some external signal that says, now is the moment. But here's the hard truth. That moment almost never comes. Life doesn't pause to offer you a clean opening. It rarely feels perfect. And if you keep waiting to feel ready, you'll likely still be waiting a year from now. The way out of this trap isn't about a giant leap or a perfect plan. It's about taking one single step. A step that's small, manageable, and imperfect. Momentum doesn't come from thinking, planning, or wishing. It comes from doing, from action, especially from tiny, simple actions that might seem insignificant to others but shift something deep inside you. They change your posture, your energy, your identity. You move from being someone who only thinks about it to someone who actually does it. James Clear captures this beautifully in his research on habits. If you want to make meaningful change, don't aim for radical overnight transformation. Aim to become the kind of person who consistently shows up. And the easiest way to do that is by shrinking your starting line so small that your brain can't talk you out of it. Want to build a writing habit? Start with just 5 minutes a day. Want to get in shape? Do 5 push-ups. Want to meditate? Try 60 seconds of stillness. It's not about how much you do. It's about proving to yourself that you're capable of doing something. There's also a neurological reason this works. Every time you complete a task, no matter how small, your brain releases a small burst of dopamine. This doesn't just make you feel good. It creates a positive feedback loop. Action leads to reward, which fuels more action. This is how momentum is born, not from grand gestures, but from tiny, consistent progress. From showing up again and again until the behavior becomes part of who you are. Small wins also help reduce fear. Often we delay starting because the goal feels too big, too far away, or too overwhelming. But when you start small, you bypass your brain's threat response. You make the task feel doable. You trick your mind into thinking, this isn't so bad. And once you're in motion, everything changes. 1 page turns into 3. A 5-minute workout turns into 20. That small act of courage leads to a breakthrough. Progress builds confidence, and confidence feeds more progress. But to build this momentum, you have to let go of perfection. Stop waiting for the ideal version of your effort. You don't need the perfect morning routine, a flawless strategy, or a fully mapped out plan. You need movement. You need evidence that you're becoming someone who acts, especially when it's inconvenient, uncertain, or messy. Because that's when your identity begins to shift. Not when it's easy, but when it's real. Look around. Your life right now. What have you been putting off? Not because it's impossible, but because you convinced yourself the conditions aren't perfect. What goal keeps living in your mind, waiting for the version of you that's fully ready and has it all together? What would happen if instead of waiting, you simply started? Pick something small, something you can do today before this day ends. Building on the idea of starting small and taking action, make it so simple that it feels almost too easy. Then, just do it. Don't overthink it. Don't overanalyze. Simply, because the truth is, starting small is the most powerful rebellion against stagnation. It's how you stop drifting and begin building. It's how you reclaim control. Not through force, but through motion. Let this be the moment you stop waiting for life to give you permission. You are the permission. The door isn't locked. The path isn't hidden. All that's missing is your first step. And once you take that step, even if it's tiny, you've done what most people never do. You've turned intention into movement. That's how you begin. That's how you change. That's how momentum is built. Not just in theory, but in action. Embrace change and adapt to thrive. Change doesn't ask for your approval. It happens Whether you're ready or not, life moves forward. Circumstances evolve, seasons shift, people grow apart, industries transform. Still, many resist, not because they don't want to grow, but because they've built comfort around the familiar, even when that familiarity no longer serves them. But here's the truth. Growth and comfort rarely exist together. If you want to thrive, not just survive, you have to stop fighting change and start working with it. Adaptability isn't a passive trait, it's a skill. And like any skill, it can be strengthened, refined, and mastered through practice. In a world that's constantly shifting technologically, socially, and emotionally, those who thrive aren't always the smartest, fastest, or strongest. They're the ones who adapt, the ones who know how to let go of what no longer fits and embrace the unfamiliar with curiosity rather than fear. Philosophers like Heraclitus spoke about this centuries ago. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. The idea is simple yet profound. Everything changes, and the sooner you accept this truth, not just intellectually but emotionally, the more power you reclaim over your future. Resistance to change is a form of emotional rigidity. It keeps you stuck in outdated narratives, clinging to past versions of yourself or waiting for things to return to how they were. But growth requires fluidity. It requires a willingness to evolve, not once, but continuously. Neuroscience supports this through the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself in response to new experiences. When you choose to learn, adapt, or shift your behavior, you're not just making better decisions. You're literally reshaping your brain. This means your identity isn't fixed. Your habits, beliefs, and skills are all moldable, but only if you're willing to challenge the patterns you've outgrown. So what keeps us resisting change? Often it's the fear of the unknown. We overestimate the risks of moving forward and underestimate the risks of staying the same. We romanticize the past because it's familiar, forgetting that many of our old routines, relationships, or mindsets were quietly limiting us. The truth is, comfort zones rarely expand on their own. They shrink, and the longer you stay inside them, the harder it becomes to move beyond. But when you choose to embrace change even before you're ready, you take back control. You stop waiting to be acted upon and start becoming someone who spawns. That doesn't mean you need to change everything overnight. Adaptability isn't chaos. Building on the theme of adaptability and resilience, it all comes down to intelligent response. It's the quiet courage to say, "This isn't working anymore, and that's okay. I'm allowed to shift, I'm allowed to evolve." Practically, this begins by asking better questions. When change appears in your life, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this here to teach me? What am I being invited to release? What am I being challenged to grow into?" Adaptability doesn't mean you have to enjoy every disruption. It simply means you don't let it paralyze you. You face it with openness, presence, and the mindset that even if you don't know the outcome yet, you trust your ability to adjust. You also need to build flexibility into your routines, mindset, and identity. Hold your plans loosely. Be willing to pivot. Let go of the need to always have certainty before you act. Because most breakthroughs in life don't come from rigidly sticking to a plan. They come from responding wisely when the plan falls apart. So reflect right now. Where in your life are you resisting change? What habits, expectations, or beliefs are you clinging to? Not because they serve you, but because they feel safe. And what would happen if instead of resisting the next wave of change, you leaned into it? Not with fear, but with faith in your ability to grow. Because here's the truth. Adaptability isn't weakness. It's strength in motion. It's the quiet, steady confidence that no matter what life throws at you, you won't break. You'll bend, you'll evolve, you'll find a way. Not because the path is clear, but because you're willing to move forward even when it isn't. That's how you thrive. That's how you rise. Persistence over perfection. Keep going no matter what. We're taught to admire perfection, to aim for flawless results, ideal timing, perfect conditions. But perfection is a mirage. Always just out of reach. Always demanding one more tweak, one more delay, one more excuse to hold back. The truth is, the people who reach their goals, build great things, and live meaningful lives are not the ones who waited until everything was perfect. They're the ones who kept going when it wasn't, when it was messy, when they felt unsure, when they failed and tried again anyway. Persistence is the quiet force behind every success story. It doesn't get celebrated like talent or genius. It rarely looks impressive in the moment, but it's what separates dreamers from builders. Because if you only take action when conditions are ideal, you'll rarely move at all. Life is unpredictable, goals are messy, and real progress almost never looks clean from the inside. It's full of setbacks, missteps, doubts, and uncomfortable learning curves. But if you keep showing up, especially when it's hard, something extraordinary happens. You begin to trust yourself. We often confuse persistence with grinding endlessly without rest. But real persistence isn't about exhausting yourself. It's about refusing to stop when things get uncomfortable. It's about taking the next small step even when the last one didn't go as planned. It's about understanding that momentum matters more than flawless execution. Because movement, even imperfect movement, creates clarity, builds confidence, and keeps you in the game. Psychologically, perfectionism is often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. It convinces you that if you get everything right, you'll finally feel safe. But safety doesn't come from perfection. It comes from building on the theme of persistence over perfection. Resilience comes from knowing that you can fall and get back up again. It comes from proving to yourself over and over that you don't need all the answers to keep moving forward. One of the most powerful things you can do is give yourself permission to do it badly, to try, to stumble, to learn, and to keep going. Because the person willing to be imperfect is always the one who improves. They get feedback, gain experience, and stay in motion while others remain stuck, waiting for the perfect plan. History is filled with people who succeeded not because they were flawless, but because they were relentless. Thomas Edison famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about those failures, he replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not romantic or glamorous. It's simply showing up again and again, fueled not by certainty but by commitment. So what does this mean for you right now? means stop waiting for the perfect moment. It means stop editing your dream before it's even real. Your next step doesn't have to be your best step. It just has to be your next step, and then the next, and then the next. Reflect honestly. Today, what have you been putting off in the name of perfection? What project, conversation, or goal are you delaying? Not because you're not ready, but because you're afraid to do it imperfectly. What would shift in your life if you chose persistence over perfection, progress over paralysis? The path to success, fulfillment, and growth isn't paved with perfect choices. It's built by those who keep walking even when the road gets rough. So take the next step. Let it be messy, let it be awkward, just don't stop. Because perfection might never arrive, but progress is always one decision away. Consistency compounds. The secret to long-term growth. If there's one force more powerful than talent, more reliable than motivation, and more transformative than bursts of inspiration, it's consistency. Quiet, unglamorous, repetitive consistency. Not the kind that makes headlines, but the kind that changes lives over time. The small actions you repeat daily, the ones that seem insignificant in the moment, are the ones building your future behind the scenes. Like drops of water carving stone, consistency reshapes everything it touches, not with force but with time. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can achieve in a year of consistent effort. That's because growth rarely looks dramatic while it's happening. It's slow, invisible even. You show up to the gym, day after day, and see no change, until suddenly you do. You write one paragraph at a time, thinking it means nothing, until one day you have a finished manuscript. You meditate every morning, feeling distracted, and then months later you notice your mind is calmer, your reactions softer. That's the compound effect in action. The compound effect works both ways. Positive consistency builds strength. Negative consistency builds regret. Skip one workout. No big deal. Skip a week, then a month, and now you've created inertia. Spend a few minutes scrolling mindlessly. No harm done. But do it for hours every day, and you've quietly traded away months of your life. Building on the power of persistence and the compound effect, you realize that it's not a single decision that shapes your life, but the repetition of that decision. That's why consistency is not just a habit, it's a commitment to your future self. Neuroscience confirms this. Repeated behaviors reinforce neural pathways in the brain. The more you repeat a behavior, the more automatic it becomes. Consistency builds habits, and habits build identity. Every time you follow through, especially when it's inconvenient or difficult, you send a message to yourself. I am someone who shows up. That message matters. It changes how you see yourself and how you navigate the world. But consistency isn't about perfection. You'll have off days. You'll fall short. The key isn't expecting flawlessness, but bouncing back quickly. The most successful people in any field aren't those who never slip. They are those who never stay down. They understand that one missed step is a stumble, but missing repeatedly is a pattern. So they return to their habits even when they don't feel like it, even on tough days, because they know momentum is fragile, and protecting it is the real work. If you want to build consistency, start by lowering the barrier to entry. Make it easy to begin. Don't aim for heroic effort. Aim for something sustainable. 5 minutes of deep work is better than none. One healthy meal is better than a perfect diet followed by burnout. Consistency isn't built on intensity. It's built on reliability and showing up no matter how small the step. Tracking your progress helps, not for perfection, but for awareness. Visual proof of consistency reinforces the habit loop. It shows you what you've already invested and motivates you to keep the chain unbroken. That's how small habits become permanent shifts through repetition, recognition, and quiet accountability. So ask yourself today, what habit, if done consistently, would completely change my life a year from now? And more importantly, what's the smallest version of that habit I can start with today? Because success isn't built in bursts. It's built in layers, days stacked quietly on top of each other. People who understand this, who embrace the slow and steady path, wake up one day to a life that reflects not just their dreams, but the actions they took day after day to make those dreams real. Consistency compounds. If you honor it, it will work for you quietly, patiently, and powerfully for the rest of your life. Sharpen your focus. Cut through distractions and stay aligned. In a world full of noise, focus has become a superpower. We live in an age of endless information, constant notifications, and digital temptations pulling our attention in every direction. It's not a lack of intelligence or ambition that keeps people stuck. It's the inability to concentrate, to finish what they start, to stay with what matters long enough to let it grow. If you can master your focus, you can change your life. If you don't, even your best ideas will remain buried beneath distractions that feel urgent but leave you empty. Focus isn't just about discipline, it's about clarity. You can't stay focused if you don't know what truly matters. You can't resist distractions if your goals are vague, your time unprotected, and your energy scattered. When your mind is pulled in 100 directions, you begin to lose connection with your priorities. And in that fog, you start reacting to whatever is loudest instead of responding to what's most important. Building on the importance of focus, consider our habitual phone usage. The average person checks their phone hundreds of times daily, often unconsciously. We jump from tab to tab, conversation to conversation, task to task, and thought to thought, creating a fractured mental state where nothing receives our full attention. This constant switching doesn't just waste time, it drains your cognitive energy. Every switch costs you focus. Each interruption takes minutes to recover from, and slowly, you become someone who is always busy but rarely present. Neuroscience calls this attention residue. When your brain jumps from one task to another without completing the first, part of your attention remains stuck on the previous activity. This lingering residue reduces performance, increases fatigue, and erodes your ability to focus deeply. And deep, focused, uninterrupted work is where your most valuable progress happens. It's where ideas crystallize, skills sharpen, and projects advance. So how do you protect your focus in a world designed to break it? First, intentionally design your environment. Your surroundings either support or sabotage your focus. Keep your phone out of sight during your most important work. Disable unnecessary notifications. Use tools that block distracting websites. Don't rely solely on willpower. Shape your space to protect your attention. Make concentrating easier than getting distracted. Second, set clear boundaries around your time. Treat deep work hours like non-negotiable appointments. Don't just hope for focus, schedule it. When that time comes, guard it fiercely. No multitasking, no message checking, no task switching. Choose one thing and give it your full presence. Even 30 minutes of focused energy compounds over time. Third, practice mental clarity. Start your day by reviewing what matters most. Ask yourself, if I only complete one thing today, what would have the biggest impact? Write it down and anchor your attention to it. Throughout the day, return to that question. Let it cut through the noise and bring you back to center. You can't do everything, but you can always choose what to do next, with intention. Finally, understand that focus is a muscle. It strengthens with use and weakens with neglect. The more you train it by resisting distractions, staying with discomfort and saying no to the easy option, the more capable you become of entering deep, productive flow. And once you've experienced that state, once you've felt what it's like to be fully immersed in something meaningful, you won't want to live any other way. So reflect right now. Where is your focus going? What distractions have you normalized? And what would happen in your life if you committed, even just for the next 7 days, to protecting your attention as if your future depended on it? Because it does. Focus is how dreams become plans, plans become actions, and actions create lasting transformation. Don't wait for silence, create it. Don't hope for clarity, choose it. Sharpen your focus, and the path ahead will begin to reveal itself. Fuel yourself. Build inner drive for the tough days. There will be days when motivation is nowhere to be found. Days when you're tired, uninspired, uncertain. Days when your goals feel distant and progress feels invisible. On those days, what keeps you going isn't hype or external praise. It's inner drive, a fire that doesn't flicker with every wind. A deeper reason that pulls you forward, even when everything else says stop. Building on the power of inner drive and focus, the truth is, if you want to build anything that lasts, whether it's a business, a craft, or a personal transformation, you need fuel that doesn't run out just because your mood dips. Inner drive isn't something you're born with, it's something you develop. And it all starts with understanding your why. Not a surface-level goal or a pretty vision, but the deep reason underneath. The thing that matters enough to endure discomfort, to show up when it's hard, to keep climbing even when no one is watching. When you're connected to a deep personal why, discipline becomes less of a chore and more of an act of alignment. But inner drive isn't just about passion. It's about managing your energy. You can't push endlessly without rest and expect to stay consistent. High performers don't just work harder, they recover better. They understand energy is a resource that must be protected. That means quality sleep. That means movement, nutrition, time in nature, moments of stillness. These aren't luxuries, they're fuel. The sharper your physical and emotional energy, the more resilient your mind becomes when resistance shows up. You also need to build emotional endurance because pursuing meaningful work isn't a straight path. You will face doubt, setbacks, and days when nothing clicks. That's not failure. That's the path. And if you expect that path to always feel good, you'll give up too soon. But if you train your mind to keep going regardless of how you feel, you unlock a new kind of strength, the ability to act without needing to be in the perfect state, to work without waiting for inspiration, to show up because you said you would, not because you feel like it. One powerful way to build that mindset is through visualization, not just imagining success, but imagining adversity, preparing yourself mentally for tough moments so that when they arrive, they don't shake you. Athletes do this. Soldiers do this. Stoics did this. Marcus Aurelius called it premeditatio malorum, the anticipation of challenges, not to dwell in negativity but to train your response. So when life tests you, you're not surprised, you're ready. Another key to fueling your inner drive is surrounding yourself with meaningful inputs. The books you read, the people you listen to, the conversations you engage in, all feed your mindset. When you immerse yourself in stories of resilience, clarity, and excellence, your own standards rise. Your self-talk shifts. You remember that setbacks aren't stop signs. They're part of the work. But perhaps the most powerful source of fuel comes from honoring your word to yourself. Every time you follow through, even on a small commitment, you build trust. That trust becomes a battery that charges you with belief. You no longer rely on external validation because you know you're the kind of person who keeps going. That inner certainty carries you through hard days, doubts, and silence. So ask yourself now, what is fueling me? Am I building sustainable energy or running on fumes? Am I acting in alignment or waiting for the perfect emotional weather to move? Because the truth is, success isn't just about action. It's about endurance. And endurance is built on fuel, not once but every day. Building on the strength of focus and persistence, remember that true power comes not just from pushing forward, but from fueling yourself wisely, through rest, purpose, mindset, and momentum. When you do this, you become unstoppable, not just when life is easy, but especially when it's challenging. Play the long game. Patience is often misunderstood as weakness in today's fast-paced world. We crave quick results, instant progress, immediate rewards. We're conditioned to believe that if something doesn't happen quickly, it probably isn't meant to be. But here's the truth. Anything truly meaningful, anything that lasts, takes time. Mastery, fulfillment, deep transformation, none of these come overnight. If you want to build something real, something you'll be proud of, you have to stop chasing quick wins and start playing the long game. The long game isn't about working slowly. It's about working intentionally. It's about viewing your journey as a marathon, not a sprint. It's the mindset that understands progress isn't always visible, and growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes progress is quiet, sometimes invisible. Sometimes the seeds you plant today won't bear fruit for months, even years. But if you trust the process and keep showing up, those seeds will grow. Patience isn't inaction. It's persistence without anxiety. It's doing the work even when the reward feels distant. It's trusting that what you're building matters, even as the world rushes on to the next shiny thing. This mindset is rare because we've been trained to equate speed with success. If you're not moving fast, people assume you're falling behind. But rushing often leads to burnout, shallow results, and abandoned goals. Those who truly succeed are the ones willing to wait, not passively, but patiently and with consistent effort, even when results don't come immediately. Neuroscience shows that the brain struggles with delayed gratification. It's wired to favor short-term rewards. That's why it's so hard to keep working when the payoff feels far away. But those who learn to delay gratification and find satisfaction in the process develop an emotional strength that few possess. They become the builders, artists, thinkers, and leaders who stand the test of time because they aren't chasing applause. They're building something real. History offers countless examples. Leonardo da Vinci spent years refining the Mona Lisa. Thomas Edison went through thousands of failed prototypes before inventing the light bulb. Their genius wasn't luck, it was relentless, patient effort. They played the long game, which is why their work endures. So what does this look like for you? It means setting goals with a long-term horizon, not just what you want in the next 3 months, but who you want to become in the next 3 years. It means committing to systems, not just outcomes, focusing on your process, habits, learning, and character, not only the end result. It means measuring progress in depth, not speed. It means staying steady when others grow bored, distracted, or discouraged. Playing the long game also requires emotional maturity. There will be plateaus, moments when it feels like nothing is happening, times when you do everything right but still don't see results. This is where most people quit, not because they can't succeed, but because they expected it to happen faster. But if you hold on to your vision through these quiet seasons, you will rise above the noise and continue building a life that lasts. Building on the strength of perseverance and accountability, remember that real growth often takes root beneath the surface before it ever becomes visible. So take a moment to reflect. Are you committed for the long haul, or are you just chasing the next fleeting high? Do you trust the work you're doing even when results haven't shown yet? Can you remain loyal to your process without constantly needing proof? Because true success lives not in speed, but in patience. Not in brief moments of glory, but in quiet, steady perseverance. The long game isn't easy, but it's worth it. It's what separates those who start from those who finish. And it's what makes your journey not just impressive, but deeply meaningful. This is where the power of accountability comes in. How to stay committed to your goals. No matter how driven, disciplined, or clear your goals are, there will always be days when you're tempted to let things slide. Days when excuses sound reasonable, distractions feel justified, and the road ahead feels exhausting. That's when accountability becomes your anchor. It's not about external pressure. It's about building structures in your life that remind you this matters. Keep going. Accountability bridges the gap between intention and action. It takes your internal desire for change and wraps it in external structure. Without it, even the best plans fade away. Left to ourselves, we often default to comfort. We negotiate with discipline. We say, "I'll start tomorrow," and then say it again the next day. But when someone or something outside of you expects you to follow through, you think twice. You push harder. You stay on track, not just for your goals, but for your word. There are many forms of accountability, but the most powerful ones are rooted in integrity, not fear. It's not about punishment for falling short, but about being reminded of the person you said you want to become. It could be a mentor who checks in weekly, a friend walking the same path, a coach challenging your excuses, or even a public commitment, sharing your goal openly so that backing down feels harder than moving forward. But accountability doesn't have to come only from others. One of the strongest forms is self-accountability, learning to keep your promises to yourself. That's where true confidence is born. Every time you say, "I'm going to do this," and then follow through even when it's hard, you build trust. That trust becomes momentum. It becomes identity. You stop needing motivation because you are the kind of person who shows up. To build self-accountability, start small. Set micro-promises each day and keep them. Wake up at the time you promised. Finish the tasks you committed to. Journal for 5 minutes if that's on your list. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. And when you fall short, don't make excuses. Reflect, adjust, and try again. Accountability isn't about being flawless. It's about being honest. You can also create accountability systems, rituals that make it easier to stay aligned. Weekly reviews to reflect on your actions, habit trackers, morning reminders of your priorities, a calendar that reflects your values, not just your obligations. These systems act like mirrors, showing how closely your actions match your intentions. If the gap widens, they help you course correct. There's also a deeper level of accountability, the kind that connects your goals to something bigger than yourself. Building on the power of accountability and reflection, when your actions serve a mission, a community, or a future version of yourself that you deeply care about, skipping a step no longer feels small. It feels like a betrayal. That emotional weight carries power, not in a shameful way, but as a sacred reminder that this truly matters. Stay the course. Take a moment to reflect on your life right now. Where do you need more accountability? What goals have you allowed to drift simply because no one was watching? And how might your commitment change if someone, or even your future self, was keeping score? Because when you build a system of accountability, you no longer rely on fleeting motivation. You build something stronger: discipline, trust, and momentum. That is what carries you through days when your energy is low, your path is unclear, or your belief wavers. Accountability isn't just about staying on track. It's about becoming someone you can count on, someone who follows through, whose actions speak louder than intentions. And that kind of power doesn't just change habits, it transforms your entire life. Pause, reflect, and evolve. Turn experience into wisdom. In a culture obsessed with speed, constant movement, and non-stop achievement, reflection can feel like a luxury, something we'll get to when things slow down. But the truth is, without reflection, you're not growing. You're just repeating. Without time to pause and process, even your hardest-earned lessons fade into background noise. You become busy but not wiser, active but not aligned. And slowly, almost without realizing, you drift further away from who you're trying to become. Growth isn't just about doing more. It's about learning more deeply from what you've already done. Every experience, success, mistake, conversation, and challenge holds insight. But you only access that insight when you pause, when you step back, ask questions, and pay attention to what the moment is trying to teach you. Without that pause, even the toughest lessons can be wasted. You go through the pain but miss the wisdom. Reflection turns time into progress. It allows you to extract value from a day, a week, or a year. It prevents you from making the same mistake twice, from chasing goals that no longer serve you, from getting stuck in cycles that look productive but are actually just comfortable. Reflection asks, what's working, what's not? What needs to change not just around me but within me? This isn't about dwelling or self-criticism. It's honest review. It's creating space in your life to slow down and listen to your thoughts, patterns, and intuition. Because wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. And if your life is too loud, you won't hear it. One powerful practice is a weekly reflection ritual. 15 minutes at the end of each week to ask, what did I learn? What drained me? What energized me? Where did I act in alignment with my values? And where did I fall short? These small moments of awareness, done consistently, compound into enormous growth. They help you recalibrate, reprioritize, and move forward with sharper clarity. Reflection also gives you the courage to evolve. Sometimes we cling to outdated goals, habits, or identities simply because we've never stopped to question them. But evolution requires honesty. It means asking, is this still who I want to be? Is this path still leading where I want to go? And if the answer is no, it's okay to pivot, to release what no longer serves you, to update your path. Building on the honesty of self-reflection and adaptability, remember that pivoting your path isn't about failure. It's about growth. The Stoics practiced this daily. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations wrote not for an audience but for himself. He used reflection as a mirror to stay grounded in what truly mattered and to realign his actions with his principles. He understood that leadership, discipline, and wisdom aren't static qualities. They must be renewed daily through awareness, humility, and self-honesty. You can do the same. Take 5 minutes each evening to review your day, not to judge, but to learn. What did you do well? What could you improve tomorrow? What did this day reveal about your focus, your energy, and your mindset? These simple questions, asked consistently, can create transformations more powerful than any goal-setting session, because they reconnect you with yourself. So ask yourself now, when was the last time you paused, not just physically, but mentally, to reflect? What lessons have you missed simply because you were too busy to notice? And what would change if reflection became a regular part of your journey? Not an afterthought, but a core habit. Because life doesn't reward constant motion. It rewards alignment. And that alignment is only possible when you pause long enough to see clearly. Reflection turns experience into wisdom. Wisdom turns action into growth. And growth, real, lasting, meaningful growth, comes not just from moving forward, but from understanding where you've been and who you're becoming along the way. Every step of the journey we've walked together in this episode points back to one essential truth. Your time is your life. Not in theory, not someday, but right now. Moment by moment, decision by decision. Every hour you spend is a silent investment in the person you're becoming. And if you don't claim that time with intention, The world will spend it for you. On distractions, doubts, and directions that have nothing to do with your dreams. You've seen how small habits become powerful patterns, how clarity creates momentum, how consistency compounds into mastery. But none of it matters unless you act, unless you choose. And that choice doesn't happen tomorrow or next week or once the fear goes away. It happens now, in the space between this moment and your next decision. So ask yourself, are you living each day aligned with the life you say you want? Are you honoring your potential or negotiating with it? Are you choosing growth or letting time slip through routines that no longer serve you? This episode isn't about pressure. It's about possibility. You have the power right now to shift, to begin again, to simplify your focus, reclaim your attention, and align your actions with your purpose. No permission needed, no perfect conditions required, just a quiet decision to begin. Then another, and another. That's how change begins. Not in grand gestures, but in small, consistent acts of self-respect. So as we close this chapter, remember, it's not about doing everything. It's about doing what matters, with clarity, patience, and courage. You don't need more time. You need to make the time you already have count. Now go show up and make today mean something.